What is up? Welcome back to the Vanflip podcast. And today, or this week, however, as you've already seen in the title, I am joined by David and Bobby of the band Signs of the Swarm from Pittsburgh. How are you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic. Just kind of running the shots,
I got it.
Yeah, I'm good as well. Thank you.
No problem.
Trying to get this together for a while, so I really appreciate making it happen.
Yeah, it's not all your fault. It's some of my fault too. So by all means, I'm glad the mix-ups finally, not mix-ups, but I'm finally glad we aligned appropriately to knock this out. So it's good to go. So yeah, you guys have a new album coming out. You guys have been a band for the last couple of years. You're like a deathcore kind of heavy band, obviously. For those who aren't aware, but anyway, you guys have a new album, and it's the I know we just freaking talked about it, David. And is it Absolvere? I'll say Absolvere.
Yes, Absolvere.
Okay.
Absolvere. It's Latin. Yes.
So yeah, go ahead and where'd that name come from, and why are you using it for the album, and and all that?
Well, it was kind of like a joint thing. I was leaning more towards like Absolution or like Blood Seal, and I threw out a couple names over to Bobby, and then Bobby started like brainstorming around a little bit, and then he came up with Absolvere, and I'm just like, yo, that just looks cool, you know what I mean? And then like looked into the topic, like what it actually meant and everything, and it like it's the title track for it is pretty sick, and that's kind of like where it all stemmed from. And we kind of just wanted to have fun with it, so it was a really creative title for the album. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I almost spoiled the whole title track, bro.
Started like working its way into other things. Like I was just looking up like synonyms for Absolution because like a lot of bands have kind of used that same vibe, like Kubla Khan has Absolute, some other bands have Absolution and stuff. So I was like, well, how can we do that? Because the word fits the theme of the album. So we were like, how can we use something like that, but it not be, a rip basically. So I found that and just sent it over, and we were like, this is cool. You can't really find a lot of history on it because Latin shit's like super vague,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it's somewhere between Absolute and like Dissolve, which is kind of cool too. And it just kind of worked its way into some songs, and we were like, yeah, this is cool. So it just worked out.
Yeah. And thus far, you were saying you didn't want to ruin the title track because obviously that's not out as of this podcast being recorded. But you do have at least one single off the album, Hollow Prison. Correct? Is that the only one that's?
Actually, we have two, Totem and
yep.
Hollow Prison.
Okay,
yeah. Those were like probably some of the band's favorites. We definitely reserved some other favorites for some other future releases. When's this come out again?
We are kind of mid-October.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, yeah. Death Whistle will be out. Yeah. And then I think we made the decision for Hymns, right?
Yeah. So the opening for the album is going to be coming out sometime right around the album as well. Right around the album release is September 24th, so that'll be out by the time it's out as well.
Yeah.
But this is kind of cool, being able to talk about what we're going to be able to release because it's going to be out after. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hi, future me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we do. I knock these out so much, because we do one episode a week, right? And there were times way earlier on where I would have to we don't have anybody this week. You know what I mean? So when we get, I try to line everybody up, and we get offers to have people on. Sometimes we take those, sometimes we don't, obviously. But I try to knock them out. So I am sitting on 8 episodes or something like that are already done, which is cool. But obviously,
it's definitely sick.
It kind of sucks though that this will air like 6 weeks after, or after we record this, which is cool because then obviously like we can talk about some things that maybe we wouldn't be able to talk about if like this came out this week or something like that. So
oh yeah, for sure. So like that's actually really cool. You know what I mean? That's gonna be really cool.
So obviously like you've already listened, like the listeners probably already listened to the album a couple times because it's been out for a week
man,
or
I wonder if they're going to be like, oh yeah, fucking, so they're already going to be like hearing all the clean singing and all that shit. That's going to be sick.
Okay, so is that kind of like something that's differential or different from your previous releases? It's like you guys incorporated some clean singing?
Yeah, we implemented some clean singing into the record. We kind of wanted to just like push ourselves as artists in a way and kind of just like expand our sound and just see what we can do. You know what I mean? Like be brutally fucking heavy, but at the same time actually express emotion in the song. You know what I mean? At the right points. And I feel like that we really did highlight that pretty well on this record.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't forced either. That's one thing that was super, like the music, when the music called for it, we were like, oh, maybe we could, get somebody to try singing this and see how it sounds. And it just, we were like, when we heard it, we were like, yeah, that's sick. We're going to keep it, so.
But so who handles the clean singing? Is that someone that's internally in the band, or were you surprised by that as well? Were you like, oh my God, so-and-so can sing?
It was performed by our old guitar player, Corey. But I created and wrote all his parts for him and kind of coached him through it. It was just like something that he really liked to do. And we kind of wanted to give him the opportunity to kind of do that. So and from this point on, I'll be handling that. I've been taking lessons to do more fronting of like the actual clean singing. Shout out to the Extreme Vocal Institute. David is the guy that is coaching me through this stuff.
That's
so
cool.
I'm in some good hands, learning how to take on because like it's some ballsy, it's some ballsy singing, man. You know what I mean? Like, so it's definitely a new chapter for me on like things to work on and get like fluent with so we could perform the songs. You know what I mean? And plus, like in the future, I'd like to kind of front some stuff in future material that if it calls it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I was sorry. Go ahead, Bobby.
Oh, it's okay. I was just going to say, it's nice to still be able to do it even, after that time. So Dave's definitely stepping up a lot there. We've been practicing it a lot live to make sure we can recreate it, and it's coming together. So
that's cool. And did you, obviously if anyone can look up what you guys are referring to as well with your past member and whatnot, but did you ever think about not handling the vocal duties yourself because Corey's no longer in the band, or is that something that maybe you would maybe look for in a replacement for Corey?
Realistically, like we're kind of just running it as is, you know what I mean? And I would rather just take on the responsibility than try to find somebody that is just trying to do that, you know what I mean? Because realistically, like I wrote the parts for Corey and everything. And I don't know if like, say, hypothetically speaking, if we did get somebody that would sing that, like they would want to like kind of bring in their own stuff and, you know what I mean? It'd be
their own baggage, kind of, so to speak.
Yeah. So I think that it's just better for me as a vocalist to handle it, you know what I mean? And plus, it helps me like kind of grow as an artist as well. Because like realistically, me experimenting and trying to find the correct tone, I've been finding other tones that are pretty neat, you know what I mean? And there's a side of me where like I want to experiment with other styles of music just in my own personal time from doing this, you know what I mean? So yeah,
that's cool. So did you ever at one point think about maybe, because obviously as we're talking now, you only have the 2 singles out, and I don't think there's that much, if any, clean singing in either of those singles.
Oh no! Whenever we released Death Whistle on September 6th, That's going to be the first shed of light to the clean singing. But like it's
in there.
Yeah, it's just like sprinkled in there and just like the right touch of it, you know what I mean?
Right.
And the real strong like singing song I would have to say is Dreaming Desecration. It just has like this real powerful chorus in there, and nice bridge. It's real crispy.
We were considering playing that live before, but just given the circumstances, we kind of decided to just shelf it and kind of let it be its thing. It's kind of the same thing we've done with like the collection, which had Matt Honeycutt and Nick Arthur from Molotov Solution on it. Is it's like, if we can't really recreate it the way it's supposed to be, we'd rather it just kind of be its own special thing, you know, and just kind of, it's cool. That's how it's supposed to sound. You know, we don't want to go and botch it. Basically,
right.
You know, I mean, respectfully, like just, we'd rather play to our strong suits, I guess, but we are going to be playing Death Whistle in the future. That doesn't have too much singing on it. And it's one of our favorite songs, I think.
We're going to, Boundless Manifestation has clean singing in it too. We're going to be playing that on that Born of Osiris tour.
Yeah, and we'll get into that tour in a little bit here, but to kind of keep going with the the clean singing and such, with Corey no longer being in the band, and you obviously haven't released those tracks yet. Did it ever cross your mind, David, to maybe like re-record those parts to
Oh, you can't do that at this stage of everything. Like that's what a lot of people don't understand is that like once you submit an entire album to your like platforms, that it's there. Like you have songs that are already scheduled out. Yeah, like there's a whole initial campaign planned, and a lot of like outsiders really don't understand that. You know what I mean? They think that we control every aspect, and it's not like that at all. Whenever you're doing a release of this caliber, it is very planned out. Like I had my schedule shit like a year ago. Like I knew like how everything was going to be planned out to the week. You know what I mean? And sprinkling in some like cool collabs like what we're doing with like the Hollow Prison long sleeve with Despised Icon. Like we sprinkle some stuff in like that every like here and there, you know what I mean? Just to keep it exciting for everybody and have some new fresh stuff. But yeah, like I would like there's a side of me where like I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool if I could, but realistically, like that's not in the cards. You know what I mean? It's you kind of got to work with what we already have in motion. And
we finished recording in March, and then this is now
March of this year. Okay,
March of this year, yeah. And so that's been submitted, to the label and to all the streaming platforms, and the CDs have been pressed, vinyls are being pressed, and there's such a backup on vinyl now where it's
of course.
So if we were to change, something, it's like that wouldn't even change until the next release of the album, which would change. It would just, there's really nothing at this point. There's really nothing we could do about it. We were just kind of had to eat it. We're like, well, that's, it is what it is. Luckily, there's not a ton of singing. I guess I don't want to say luckily, but just, I don't know. It's just one of those things where we are still happy with the product. I think it hasn't really changed how I feel about the product. And I think that we wrote the songs for them to be that way. And at this point, changing them, even if we could change them, would completely kind of change the vibe, So I'd just rather just keep moving forward. Our next album will obviously be different for whatever.
You could also, in like 6 months or whatever, release a deluxe version and maybe, have you singing David on it instead of, the original singing that was on it. Just throwing out ideas here, fellas.
Yeah, see, we were actually thinking about doing like a cool repack of everything for like fans and stuff, where it includes some like live footage, like it's like a DVD setting where like you'd get like a live show and stuff. It's just like some cool little insider stuff. anyone listens to this, and you know what I mean? Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, that could be cool, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like some stuff, like insider stuff that we're thinking about for Deluxe, like later down the line. I don't know if Jamie's going to get mad for me talking about that, but sorry, Jamie.
So to kind of piggyback off of, you know, what we're talking about with your past members and stuff like that, obviously you guys have had some people leave the band and stuff come out, and obviously people in the band stuff have come out, and you've separated yourself from that. My question to you is, how does the band deal with that, as well as, like, you know, because obviously you're going to get some kind of negativity that is either warranted and unwarranted depending on, you know, who's coming at you, or, you know, fans, this, that, the other. How does the band kind of like take that and deal with it, and how do you kind of like move forward from that?
Well, I'd say, like, unfortunately, like, member changes have just been a big part of Signs of the Swarm. Like, it just kind of is what it is, and we've had to accept that. I've been in the band since early 2015, and the band like officially formed in 2014. But most of the people who were in the band at that time were not in the band when I joined in 2015. So even from the first album, Census Order, Corey did write a lot of that, but I'd say about half of it was written by people who weren't even in the band when that album was recorded. Mm-hmm. It was recorded by Corey, CJ, the original drummer, Greg Charlie. So really, like, it's been such the band is changing all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's just something we've been used to since the very beginning. And I personally have kind of always had this, just like, I remember being like, so 2015, I was like 19, 20 years old. And I remember just seeing like Facebook videos of the band practicing in the practice, like their practice spot. And I was like, this band is sick. I want to be a part of this, you know? And I kind of got my in playing guitar because, like I said, a lot of the members had changed, you know, like immediately after writing some of the first songs. Mm-hmm. I joined the band playing guitar because I just wanted to do something different. I'm usually a drummer.
That's cool.
Our drummer at the time quit. I had to go. So I was like, well, we couldn't find a drummer. I'll play drums, I guess. It's easier to find a guitar player. So we had somebody come in, and then I was like, oh, we need a bass player. I could do that for a little while. I ended up playing bass for a while, back to drums. You know, it's just, personally, I've always had this just drive for the band where, like, I know that at least the majority, like, the band is good people, and, like, I believe in the band, and I will do anything that I have to continue the band, whether that's means I have to change what I'm playing or what role I'm doing. And I'm in a unique spot where, like, it wouldn't be as easy for, like, Dave. Dave is like the, you know, the vocalist. He's like the main guy, mm-hmm. the frontman, you know. But I've always just been like in the background doing whatever I have to do to help keep the band going. In the last couple albums, I've had a bigger hand in writing as well. Like, whereas the first two albums were basically like the two original core members were Corey and CJ. They kind of had the most hand in that. But over the last couple of years, I've had more of an opportunity to write. And then this album, pretty much from Pernicious on, we wrote and produced in my house with my studio, and I did a lot of the writing for that. We did a lot of work over Skype during COVID, the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I guess, like, the Too Long Didn't Read is just, we are always pushing forward. You know what I mean? Everybody in the band is good at writing music, and we all kind of have an agreement on what Signs of the Swarm should sound like, you know? Mm-hmm. So everybody's pretty confident, you know, as people come and go. As it is unfortunate, like, no matter what has happened, we do love and care about these people. But at the end of the day, it's like the band is our priority, and whatever we have to do to keep it going, we will do. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much it.
And since there's so many member changes that have been going on throughout the last 6 years, 7 years, are there any original members still left in the band, or is it all just kind of like people that have kind of come along and, you know, one guy comes in, another guy leaves at another time, and are we still?
I believe that Bobby is the pillar.
He sounds like he's the longest member.
Yes,
in the band,
but
I can't really say I'm like original, because technically I was in the very first music video for the band, and I was around for the recording process of that. But I didn't write any of the music for that album. That was by Corey and people, like I said, who were in the band, but then had quit to start. They're actually in like another local band called United by Hate, which is a great band and they're great dudes. But yeah, so like they all kind of went their separate way and started doing something else like immediately after writing for that band. And they took some of the songs for that band as well, but not everything. So yeah, I mean, I consider myself an original member, but some people do not, and I understand why.
Yeah.
But I've been around for all the good and the bad. So,
well, here's some more good coming. Obviously, you have a new album coming out, so maybe it's a new turning of the page. Which, by the way, speaking of turning of the page, let's talk about Absolvere's.
Yeah, you gotta get that right.
Yeah. I'm great at pronunciations. If you've listened to the podcast and if people have listened to this, they know that I jumble and fuck up words all the time. So that's just my little go-to. That's like my little niche. But anyway, the album cover is kind of unique in a way because it does like I just said with the turning of the pages. I don't think that's probably anything that you guys thought ahead of. You know what I mean? Because obviously things just transpire the way they have. But it does have a unique album cover. So do you guys want to express about what that means and who did the album art?
We actually went through a friend of ours, Gaber. He did a fantastic job on the album. The whole page thing, that's kind of something that I kind of always have had as a key phrase in my life, it's time to move on to the next chapter type deal. And I kind of wanted to implement that into the music itself. I wanted to add more personal touches to it. So with that, the album art is basically a combination of key elements from all the songs. Like the cage on the humanoid is Hollow Prison. The book dissolving into the face, that is for the title track. The little daggers coming out of the spine, that's the obsidian blade for Blood Seal. It's kind of just a melting pot for all the songs, and that's kind of where the image kind of came from. And we kind of wanted to have a humanoid, but it kind of be its own thing, and we just kind of wanted to give the hyperwave vibe to it, you know what I mean?
Compared to all the other bands on our label, if you see the lineups, which is not to throw shade at all, we love all the bands that were on the label, but a lot of the album arts are the same kind of painting style, which we have done before as well. But it's if you see it, if you look at them all lined up, ours definitely jumps out and looks completely different, which is that was the big thing for me, was just it's going to look different from other people that kind of have the same sound as we do, the deathcore, typical deathcore, death metal style. So we were just kind of hoping you see that, it's just eye grabbing as well, it definitely grabs your attention.
Yeah, and then we also kind of took a different approach about marketing our logo on it as well. If you look at the front, you can't see our name on it at all. You just see the title track, and then you flip it around, and then you just see this humanoid's hand with our name branded on its hand. And it was just a different way to kind of market our logo, where it's not the standard I have my logo taking out some of this artwork that is very visually pleasing, you know what I mean? So why not implement it to the artwork itself?
Right.
And that's kind of how we branded it, you know what I mean? Because realistically, you can't even see the title track on all the title tracks until you're actually inside the album. We wanted to kind of push people to actually read this stuff and go into the booklet, check it out. If they got the deluxe, they got a nice picture booklet, you know what I mean? Images to kind of represent the entire song. Just very different, you know what I mean? That those images are also available on the tarot cards that we have. it was just a very different spin on everything like we wanted to do. Overall with the album art, we just wanted a different approach and kind of just be that standout artwork, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like the band is kind of not evolving, but maybe evolving would be the good word, the better word to describe it, because I can't off the top of my head right now, being put on the spot by myself, I can't pick and choose another maybe deathcore or a heavy band like around the same genre as you guys that does incorporate a lot of clean singing and stuff. So it kind of sounds like, you not that you're leaving deathcore behind by all means, but you're kind of trying to evolve past maybe the, stigma of being a deathcore band, whereas you're thinking about things where, like you said, the marketing and the artwork is a little different than your other label mates, how it stands out, and obviously the clean singing is going to stand out as well. So, and you guys are going on tour. I don't know. Have you guys been able to play shows yet, or is the Born of Osiris tour going to be the first tour?
Actually, our first tour will be our headliner tour that we leave for in 2 weeks. It is the release tour of our album. We're going to be playing some new songs. We're going to be playing Hymns of Invocation, Totem, Revelations of a Silent King, Death Whistle, plus some other like newer songs like Pernicious, and we're playing some stuff off of Vital Deprivation and Disfigurement. Just all around, just trying to highlight every album for that. Kind of just like for all the old fans, for all like the new fans, and then for people that don't even know what our material's like yet, we're playing it before it's released.
We are kind of evolving a little bit, but at the same time, like we can tell it's when we play our set live, like nothing really seems out of place, even the songs that do kind of have singing in it, which is kind of interesting. Not something that I really thought about while writing it, but when we started playing it, it's actually kind of cool to like hear it all, mesh together, and it kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. When we were writing, we were just like, we kept kind of joking. I mean, we've all, especially over the last couple of years, gotten into some like, I don't know, we're all into like these big, I mean, everybody's into these bands, like Meshuggah, right, all these big, massive bands and stuff. It's like,
I was just thinking about Bleed last night. I don't know why that song you said Meshuggah, and I literally was like, thinking about the song. Yeah. I was like, damn, that song is so fucking good. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bobby. Keep going.
No, that's okay. No, we've definitely just like, we kept joking and just being like, make it huge, make it big, make it bigger, make it sound, so like there's like, some of the songs have like 15 layers of guitars and like 30 layers of just random effects, like industrial noises, sledgehammers, like noises,
glass breaking.
Yeah, noises that I made in my basement, like hitting off of poles in my basement and shit, and just like anything that we could think of to fill out the sound. I'd say like half the time was spent writing music on guitar, and we program drums, and then I go record them, and then Dave does his vocals, and then the other half of the time was just like me and Dave a lot on his like doing MIDI work, and me just like making random noises and shit in my basement, like just building on the sounds.
Not gonna lie, I totally forgot that I did the MIDI work on the album.
But no, like a lot of it was just filling out sound. That's kind of like Totem and Hollow Prison aren't necessarily like the heaviest songs, or actually far from the heaviest songs on the album, but they kind of have this big, I feel like they represent a good chunk of the album as a whole, just kind of like the huge sound, just a lot of,
just like kind of capturing like the big like choruses and stuff that's in there. I know what you're talking about, dude. Like,
yeah, it's I feel like it's going to be a treat for people who like that, but still like the other, the older stuff, and then they got to spin the album, and there's a couple tracks on there that sound like they could be off of our older albums, and it's like, I think that's going to be a treat for people who are like what we're doing, but still want to hear the old stuff and take the time to listen to the album. For me, when I listen to it, it's got a good arc, it's like, it starts out kind of with this newer sound, a little faster, more aggressive, into the singing. We have this big epic instrumental track, and then it just takes off the whole second half of the album. And that's another thing too. We wrote the album pretty much in order that it shows up on on the album.
Interesting.
So, like,
yeah, I think the only two that got switched were Dreaming and Totem.
that was Boundless and Dreaming. So 2 and 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so like we would write it and be like, instead of just writing songs and then putting them together, we were writing and thinking like, okay, this is how we want the next song to be. And then we wrote a song and we were like, okay, that one might be better like third instead of second. So that's how that got switched around. But yeah, so by the time that you get to the end of the album, it's like, it sounds like us, but this Death Whistle is the final song on the album. We're going to be releasing it before this comes out, obviously, but it's like just the final fucking build up, this big epic long track, like something we've always wanted to do. And it just worked out so well. Like when I listen to that song, when I listen to the album and I get to that song, I almost start tearing up. I'm like, it's just like the culmination of all these things. It just hits.
Well, yeah, you lived it, and you did the whole thing. And speaking of that, you said you have a studio in your house. Do you guys like handle most of that stuff internally? And do you send off your recordings to be mixed and mastered, or is that something you also handle internally as well?
Bobby actually recorded all guitars and bass. So we did that internally on his rig. He came to my house, brought all his stuff over, and we kind of just like locked ourselves in my bedroom for like a week, like tracking all that shit.
I do have a studio, quote unquote, in my basement, but it's really just a home studio. I mean, if you were to see it, you'd probably laugh. You know what I mean? It just looks like shit, like some kid's studio, basically, which is really what it is. Like, I actually never even had a computer in my life until about 3 years ago, and I'm 26 now. So
you almost escaped, man. You almost escaped, but now you gave in, and now you have technology.
So like it's been like the first year or so is just a huge learning curve of like learning how to use software and everything, and then starting to write. I wrote the first single. Well, the single we put out last year, like this time last year, was Pernicious. I started writing that around this time last year, and I was like, okay, I can kind of do this. I'm like learning how to soundscape and stuff and make things sound how they should. And yeah, so we did all the guitars and bass, mostly just to save money. And because I had done all the demos at my house and I was like, I know exactly how we want this to sound, That's something that can get lost with guitars and stuff, because especially with the kind of music we do, to really get it perfect, it takes a lot of time, and time is money, in a studio. So with guitars and stuff, it was just much easier to do it myself. But yeah, we just do DI tracks and we send them off to Christian Donaldson, and he reamps them. And then drums we record with Shane Meyer, and vocals as well with Shane Meyer and Pittsburgh. And then we send all that off to Christian. He does all the mixing and mastering.
Cool. And everyone in the band, I'm assuming, is from Pittsburgh, or is there people that live outside of Pittsburgh?
I'm a little bit outside of Pittsburgh,
general area or whatever.
yeah, we're all within like an hour at the most of the city.
Because sometimes on this podcast, it's like, no, so and so lives in Arizona and I live in Maine, and we're all we just do everything through Zoom, and so
we've had a lot of the last year we've done a lot through like Skype and Zoom, just because
obviously
and everything. But we all grew up going to the same. Well, I not grew up. I was older by the time I got out there. I had to start driving, but like Dave and Jeff, grew up going to shows together. They were in another band together in Providence.
Yeah, literally, like I've known Jeff for like 15 years.
Yeah, and that's kind of rare, you know what I mean? Because sometimes, especially in this industry, it's like, either people, obviously people do meet through their local scenes and such, but also there are people that don't know each other prior to, like joining the band in general. And a lot of people don't necessarily realize that some bands, not all bands, but some bands are not, I don't want to say put together, but obviously they do kind of get put together. So it's kind of rare sometimes to see like a band that's known each other, for X amount of years, and they're either went to school together or they grew up going to the same shows and they just kind of clicked up in their scene. So it's kind of interesting, to get some of the backstory of that.
Yeah, like Jeff was he was in a band forever ago, and it was actually one of the bands that got me to like want to try to be a vocalist, because like I saw their band and I was like, yo, that's so sick, you know what I mean? And I used to like always be like, hey dude, let's jam, you know what I mean? And kind of just like grew into a friendship of just like him fucking with me about it. You know what I mean? And then like a couple years down the line, seeing him at a show, and I was like, yo, I need a guitar player. And then he joined my band in Providence for a while. So I really got to gauge like who he is and everything like that, and kind of grew into a friendship from there. And then like whenever Jacob told us he was leaving to continue barbering and at full time and everything, that was like close to like a year and a half ago. He told us that. And I was like, hey, I know this really good guy. Pretty much he fishes and plays guitar. So, and then like he got to like actually sit down with Bobby, and I believe that they became close over the time of all of us, like kind of like getting acquainted over the album and everything. And yeah, like honestly, I'm grateful for like my scene, because the Pittsburgh scene, it's very like close. You know what I mean? It's like if you go to a show, you can literally be like, I know that person because of this person and knows them. And like it's real, like you could talk to people, and you know what I mean? Like
it's a small city, really.
Yeah, that's really it. You know, like you go and then it's like a family reunion almost whenever you go. Like shit, I went to Kublai Khan and I am recently, because that came through my city, and like shit, it was my first show back of the pandemic. And
yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, it was first one since the pandemic and everything. The first show that wasn't my show as well in 3 years. So it was very, very exciting, and got to see a lot of friends and shit.
Was Kublai Khan. The last show I saw before the pandemic in March was Kublai Khan, and then the first show back.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Since you've been to a show and you probably hadn't been around a large group of people in a long period of time. I wanted to know if you maybe experienced, because I also went to a show. I mean, I've gone to shows too since then. But did you experience like anything? Not during the show, but afterwards. Did you have like the sniffles or anything like that? Because I don't think
I'm fully vaccinated.
Well, no, I mean, I wasn't thinking about that, but I think like, what I was trying to get at, because like when I went to the show, it was the first time I was around like a large group of people, and I don't think like, you know, I hadn't been used to getting in other people's germs or whatever. So
I'm sick right now because last week I went to see Green Day with my family, which was like people.
Yeah, that tour came through here too.
And I played a gig Saturday. I filled in for a band, and it was a sold out show in a basement of a pizza shop, which was sick. But yeah, so it was like 100 people in a space the size of like, you know, a kitchen, and like and then we practiced as well. And it's something about being like I've been doing music for a long time, so I'm pretty comfortable around people and everything. But even just not doing it for so long, I was this is weird, man. It made me uncomfortable, you know, almost like social things, like just talking to people. I'd be talking to people and just be like, okay, like I'm going to go to the bathroom or whatever, you know, just to kind of get like breathe a little bit. And, but yeah, I've had the sniffles. I actually just got a COVID test today just to make sure that I was, and everything's fine. But
yeah, same happened with me. I hadn't been around anybody, and then the next thing you know, I'm around 200 people for like the first time in like a year and a half or something like that. And my buddies who own the venue, I like texted them because we're kind of close, and I was like, hey man, I was like, anyone else feeling a little sniffly? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And then of course, like the first thought that goes through your head is like, oh no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then a couple of days went by, and I started feeling like a lot better. And then obviously I was hanging out with my dad later in the week, and my sisters were freaking out because I told them, I was like, yeah, I'm not like, I wasn't sick, but I was like, I just feel not well. Like, you know, I'm sniffly, got a little bit of a nake here and there. But again, like I tested twice throughout the week, and it was both negative. So I was like, I guess my body just hadn't really been around other people in so long, or in mass form like that it just was like a shock or something. So I'm trying to, I guess what I want to say is, what I want to try to get out there is people that probably haven't been to shows yet and that are probably going to start going to shows, they may experience something similar, but don't freak out. You know what I mean? It might not be the worst.
Me and myself and three of the other people who were in that band I was filling in for, and the photographer, all were feeling sick. So, we all got tested just to be sure. And everybody's came back negative. Everybody just has like a little head cold. I've got some sore throat. And I was like, I did actually. I had COVID last year when it first hit. I got it like immediately.
How was that?
And so it was actually not too bad for me. I know some other people, like I have roommates and stuff, who had it pretty bad, or lost their taste for like a month or two. And mine was maybe like a week, and I was fine. But
yeah, my sister got it too, and it was pretty bad for her. And she got it more recently, but she was down and out for like 10 days.
Yeah, I got really lucky. But just because of that, I've been like, I know what it feels like, like as soon as I get that sniffle, I'm like, let's go. I'm getting that test.
Yeah, you hit the chat this morning. I was like, oh no.
As soon as I was like, yeah, it's been like 3 days. I'm feeling like shit.
Yeah, so. It's always good. But it's always good to know too, you know what I mean? And luckily they either, because I don't know how it is around you, but we have areas where you can still get free testing. But I just went to like the CVS, Walgreens, or whatever pharmacy is near me, and I bought the take-home test or whatever for like $20. So I did that, and obviously it was negative, but whatever. I think I personally had it too before everything popped off because I got super sick.
I swear to God,
I got super sick
on that Shadow of Intent tour, bro. I swear we were like dying.
And a lot of people I've talked to have said the same thing, especially bands on tour. Like, they're like, dude, so and so was fucking like so ill, and it. So
I got to email you this video of when we were on. It was us, Shadow of Intent, Born with Cyrus and Fury, and we were in Atlanta, I think, right after we played in not Atlanta. We were coming from Atlanta. We were in like South Carolina, Greensboro or something, and there's a video of like 10 dudes on the tour package curled up on the floor on the couches, everybody just like puking, fucking, cold.
When sick. Was this? What month was this?
That was January.
Dude, that's the same fucking time that I was doing the same thing. I was like, I'd never, and this might be TMI for those who are listening, but I've had a big fear of like, and this more than likely when you're like hungover in your earlier years. One of my biggest fears was like throwing up and having to shit at the same time. And, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. It's just one of those fears because you don't want to. Like, what do you do? Like, you can only. There's only one place where both that stuff goes. So it's like, what do you do? But I kind of like experienced a little bit of that earlier in January 2020 when I got like sick. I was like, why am I throwing up and having diarrhea at the same time? And it was like all my fears just like culminating into one. So it's good to hear that other people were having similar symptoms around the same time.
Well, right, so it's so funny because that venue had one bathroom in the basement, right? So there's like this constant line of like 10 sick tour, gross sweaty tour dudes. But in that bathroom had a shower as well, thankfully. But like this, so there'd be like people in the shower section like puking, and people in the fucking toilet section going. It's too rough. Much. But yeah, man, that was rough. So and then
go ahead.
We were all for like 2 days. I remember going on stage that night and we cut a song because I was playing like I wasn't even moving, man. Like I was just playing like this for like 20 minutes,
Did you guys finish that tour out? And like, how long was everyone like out for on the tour? Like, obviously you had like 10 guys that were incapacitated for a little bit, but
we all did it. I think that was like maybe 5 shows left from that point, and everybody just kind of after like 2 days we were all good, but that first night was terrible, and then the second day we all had to play. It was pretty rough.
Yeah, I had like I think 3 or 4 days of just like, what the fuck, dude? Like I had never felt like that. And then of course, like 2-3 months later, everything pops off, and I was like, oh wait, that guy. I felt the same kind of thing. So let's. There's 2 other questions. Not 2 other questions, but there's 2 questions I definitely want to ask, and each of you have one is for David, one is for Bobby. So David, I'll start with you. You mentioned earlier in this podcast that you kind of been working with the extreme metal vocalist guy, and he's someone.
Yeah, I've been working with him for years, man. He helped me through vital deprivation because we were going through a very expensive studio, and so like I kind of was on crunch time whenever it came to doing vocals, and like I blew my voice out because I was just going balls to the wall, you know what I mean? And I was using different gear I wasn't used to using. Like I was using a Manley reference mic that's a very expensive mic. So like I wasn't allowed to touch it, you know what I mean? And I'm used to like holding my mic and like getting different like styles of like put like projection and stuff. And So I just blew my voice out, and he helped me through that. And from there, we kind of just became really good friends. And he's been kind of just trooping me through that.
Yeah, he's someone that I kind of recently, in the last year maybe, has popped on my radar. I didn't really, through Instagram of all places. Like I would just be going through the reels, and the next thing you know, I see this guy who's doing all these weird vocal stuff, and I'm like, is this for real? Like, you know what I mean? Like I just like, yeah. So it was cool to see like the more that he started popping up, obviously because like I watched his stuff and then went to his page, and then of course the algorithm's like, oh, you want this? So I would see a lot of his content, and then I started to realize like, oh, this guy is actually like working with a lot of people, not just people on the internet that maybe want to learn how to sing, but he's also or be a extreme metal vocalist person, but he also works with bands, and he has bands, and he was a lot bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah, he actually just did Lamb of God cover with what the hell is his name? It's like Richardson. That's it. I couldn't get the first name. I got the last.
What was his name? Sorry, Bobby, it cut out. What was his name?
Oh, Luke Holland and Jason Richardson.
Okay,
which are legends. I'm sure you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so cool for him. We met him at first. He came out in 2017 or maybe early 2018. We did a short 2-week tour with Lorna Shore, like right when they started popping off real heavy, and he came out to our show our first day in New Jersey with them, and that's when we met him for the first time. And he's just been such a nice, supportive person of the band,
Yeah, he definitely seems like that on the exterior through his I only know him through social media, but and I don't even know him through social. I just know him from watching him. I haven't even talked to him or anything like that, but he seems like a very genuine person.
Honestly, literally, that energy you get from his videos, that's the exact person he is. Like cool. He's a phenomenal person. His entire team over at Extreme Metal Vocal Institute is just top notch, man.
What's his name? What's his actual name?
David Bernice.
Okay, because I only know him by the Extreme Metal Vocalist.
I think it's Benitez.
I always say Bernice.
As long as I know it's David, I'm cool with that. It's easy to remember. My name's David. Your name's David. We'll all just be Davids together.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, Dave, let's go.
Yeah. Also, I noticed we're all the third, not the creep. Dave's the third. I'm the third. You're the third. I saw in that email. It's kind of fun.
Go. That's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah,
fucking royalty, baby. Let's
third
go.
Time's a charm, baby. But so my other question, Bobby, is something you brought up in this podcast, which kind of I should have expanded upon it when you said that. But how the hell do you go 23 years without having a computer, dog? Not only that, but how do you not use? I mean, obviously, I would assume you probably used one in school growing up and such like that. Yeah. But for someone who just got a computer in the last handful of years, you're already doing recording stuff and everything like that. I don't want to be was it hard to learn the computer? Because obviously you might have used a computer prior, but you didn't own a computer until 23.
Oh. So no, when I was young, when I was in high school, I had a laptop that I used within a year and a half, I totally ruined it by torrenting music. But just come back to haunt me now, I was I was in bands, local bands as a kid a lot, and people would just be like, "Oh, check this out," or I'd download stuff for other people, LimeWire, Pirate Bay, and I just gave that computer AIDS pretty much. So after that one, I started touring really heavy, and I was always playing with DIY bands, local bands, and I just could never afford to get a computer. I was always just living paycheck to paycheck, and I never needed one because I would just play drums, or I'd just play guitar and do demos with other people. But finally, I was like, I want to start being able to. I had a phone too, of course, which if you have a phone, you don't really need a computer, and it's just nice to have.
Right.
But I was like, I want to get into being able to demo my own music because the band's kind of taken off a little bit. So, I just picked it up, and I got into PreSonus Studio One. It's just super user friendly, easy to use digital workstation, and there's tons. It's super cheap. There's a couple $100, gets you monitors, interface, the DAW, everything. And there's tons of videos online, for that program in particular, and it's cheap. So I went with that and just started doing it, man. and try lots of trial and error. Even, I mean, of course I'm still learning, but like definitely, like I said, we started with those 2 singles last year, kind of helped me learn to do it. And then when we dove in, by the time we got into the album, I was like feeling pretty confident, you know, about how to do stuff. And learning how to, most of it's like not so much the writing, but like the technical side of like a digital workstation, like exporting you know, making sure everything's just fucking perfect is such a hassle when you're working with like 10 songs, like 70, 80 tracks, 100 tracks for one of the songs. Like make sure everything's in its place, not, you know, but it's, I'm just some guy, like anybody can do it. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
right. I am also like, some guy who's done it. I haven't done.
It just takes time. It just takes so much time. And like, I'm super grateful to have like a supportive girlfriend who like is okay with me spending 10 hours a day in my basement on a computer, you know, like when I'm not at work. So
yeah, I was going to ask.
You know?
I was going to ask because you were talking about like, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, and obviously the band is getting more popular and more popular as time goes on, and this, that, the other, and hopefully with this new album, it's even, you know, more popular, obviously, and you get more fan base and more revenue incoming, obviously. But what do you guys do when you're not in the when you're not touring or not in the band? Do you guys like have other jobs that you work in the real world?
Well, I just like I had put in my after we did that Shadow of Intent tour last year, and then we went overseas for the second time to Asia. I was like, things are going well, like. I'm making enough money to pay my bills while I'm on tour, you know, like, which is really all I could ever ask for. And I was just like, I put in my 2 weeks at my job at the time, and then the pandemic hit, and my boss, you know, I kept working, and my boss was like, he's like, so are you just gonna like keep working? And I'm like, yeah, I guess, you know, there's nothing else I could do. So yeah, I've been working in food for the last couple of years. I've worked in food a lot over the years. I worked in retail for 5 years. I worked in food for like 5 years. I worked warehouse jobs. I went to college for 2 years, but then I started touring super heavy and just fell off of it. But yeah, I actually just put in my 2 weeks again next week, next Tuesday, since we're hitting the road. We don't have everything announced right now, but basically every other month for the next like 8 months, we have a tour planned.
That's good.
So I was like, now's the time. I'm just going to dive in. You know, I've been saving for a long time.
Yeah, that's important there. That would be the important one.
And then Dave's been doing some work as well.
Yeah. I used to weld before the band.
Interesting.
Like I kind of just like dropped that entire like career choice to join Signs, and over like previous years in Signs, I used to like manage a vape company, and then I quit that like around the same time frame Bobby was saying where he quit his job. It was just I was starting to make money doing what I loved, you know what I mean, and I really didn't need to have a secondary job. Then the pandemic hit, and then I kind of got into hardscapes. And
what's hardscapes?
Like building like patios, retaining walls.
Okay.
Like concrete work and stuff,
Gotcha.
Heavy machinery. Just kind of got into that because like I kind of don't mind doing like physical labor. It kind of makes the time go by faster than just doing like a warehouse job or something.
You said earlier you'd kind of like to work out in the morning anyway, so you would seem like you kind of like you know, like the physical aspect of it. Which kudos to you for being a morning person, because I'm not that at all.
Yeah, see, like I don't mind it at all. Like I actually just stopped working last week, actually, just to start prepping for tour and doing all the advances and stuff for our tours and shit like that. Plus, I'm going on vacation, like I was telling you earlier.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm probably gonna end up working just because I get bored. You know what I mean? Like, I just like get sickness being stuck in the house all day. So like, I might go back in the winter whenever we have time off after our Fit for an Autopsy tour. Because like we have like maybe like 2 or 3 months off before we do our bigger circuit. where that's like worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that'll be announced or not by this being released or not, so I don't want to spill the beans on that.
It's coming though, fellas.
Yeah, honestly, like that's like the game changer tour. Fucking, we hit that, and then we do a larger circuit out in foreign countries. So it'll be about like 2.5 months worth of touring straight. So it's going to be a big accomplishment for us because we've done something like this before, you know what I mean? But it's a little bit bigger than last occurrence that we did it, you know.
Cool.
Really hoping that I can get into doing more studio work and filling in when I'm not on tour with Signs, just to supplement. I do teaching some drum lessons as well, but I haven't been doing it as much lately because I've been so busy with the band. Mm-hmm. Which is I love that. Just anytime I can get like some drumsticks in my hand is a better day, you know?
Yeah, so, I feel you.
Any day I can.
You kind of talked about going to Asia. What was that like? Like because I don't normally, I mean, like in my head, I don't necessarily, I mean, depending on what Asian country you're talking about, maybe. Deathcore seems to be kind of, I wouldn't assume it reaching, I mean, not that it doesn't reach out there, but I don't, you know what I mean? Like it seems weird that, you know, Asian countries would kind of gravitate towards deathcore. But again, I say that, and I know that like some Southeastern Asian places are like really big into hardcore. So, you know.
Yeah. See, like honestly, man, I was genuinely surprised whenever we hit these foreign countries. Like, for example, like our first time in Japan, I literally shit my pants for how many people we played for. You know what I mean? Like it was at that point in time the biggest shows we were probably playing, and we were on some heavier set tours. You know what I mean? Like, so like they're decent. They're like better than decent. You know what I mean?
That first tour we kind of lucked out with. It was because it was 2019, early 2019. We were supposed to go supporting Within the Ruins and Aversion's Crown, and within about a month of us leaving, both those bands unfortunately had to drop the tour. And so the people who were booking it, who ended up Marina and I don't remember the name of the company, but they ended up basically just being like, so do you guys want to still do the tour and just play like a headliner set, you know? And so it's just us and then like one or two local bands every now and then, except for like some nights was literally just us. Mm-hmm. And we had to show up and play like 45 minutes. And then when we went back this last year, we had to play like a little over an hour. And it was so surreal because it helped us definitely get a bigger crowd, I think, that first time, because some people were intending to see Aversion's Crown Within the Ruins as well, so they just ended up coming because they already had tickets or whatever. So that helped us a lot, and then when we came back, because of that, it helped. But when we came back last year, because of the pandemic, almost half of our shows got canceled because we were supposed to play in China and Wuhan.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. Wuhan, I don't really remember most of the countries, but we had like 5 or 6 shows in China and they all got canceled. So we hopped on a flight, went to Bangkok, and that crowd was unreal. It was insane. We were in a plane for like 2 days straight.
No, thank you.
Got off the plane, had to sleep for like 4 hours, and then immediately went to play the gig.
So when you're over there, like that, do you guys, is it flying most of the time? Like you're taking all your equipment and you're putting it on a plane and all that stuff, and your merch and shit like that? It's not like a band situation like in the States here or in Europe?
They have drum back lines and then merch as well. We have a friend, Gino. For Japan, we went to Just Japan. It's a different company, right. Marina, that's like their own thing. But the guy who did like our full Asia tour, Slam and Booking, they handle like your merch and stuff. So it's basically like, this is the amount. Like they're very, not that people in America aren't on top of their shit. Like I'm not hating, but over there, because it's so much money and so much work that goes into getting you over there, they're so on top of their shit with like, you know, your flights, your hotels, your merch. They usually, because of the language barrier, they pretty much sell your merch for you as well. And they do all that work, and it's really special because it is a lot of work and you're tired, but they are aware of that. So they try to take a lot. It seems like that they try to take a lot of that stress off of you.
See, I really like how they like give us like a travel person with us as well that kind of like just will take us around and just do stuff outside of work. You know what I mean? Like I always appreciated that whenever we kind of got that as well.
Yeah, we get to explore a lot more being in Japan and stuff because they have a crew. Like, it's really crazy, man. Like, they do have vans and stuff, but for the most part, you know, your van just takes you from the airport to your gig, and then you get a hotel that's maybe like across the street from your gig. So your stuff will just stay in the venue, you know, until you take your next flight or whatever. But they have crews that are like full on roadies, you know.
Yep.
But like, I mean, half the time I'd say probably half the shows we didn't even have to load our own gear into the venue. You know, we'd have to set it up, but it'd already be in the venue when you get there from your hotel. And it's like, just, we had never experienced that kind of like,
hospitality.
Exactly. Yeah. Before that,
it just seems
like, holy shit, you know? Like,
yeah. It seems like a logistical nightmare if you're having to fly all the time. And especially, you know, because obviously like airline companies do not mishandle luggage, but like, you know, luggage doesn't always show up when you land, you know, or something like that. There's confusion a lot of the times.
Luckily, we really never had that problem. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Our shit usually lands with us, and we've never had a problem.
We are planning on doing a lot of flying next year, so we're hoping it's like 20, probably going to be like 20 flights over the course of a month. So we're hoping that everything gets there.
So with that being said, hopefully none of you guys are afraid of flying. Myself, I don't like flying that much, but especially on I don't want to be. You said 2 days in a plane. I'm like, fuck that, dude. I don't want anything to do with that. You know what I mean? Not only like
in the big planes going, you know, from one country to the next, it's comfy for the most part. Maybe not for Dave because he's tall as fuck.
Yeah.
But like, you get food, you get, you know.
When you say big planes, though, Bobby, what are we talking about? Big planes? We talking about like
the 747s, you know, like the spacious. But then when you're going from like when you're in Asia, the countries are much closer. A lot of the times you're on smaller planes, and because of that, you know, you feel a lot more of the turbulence and it can be very hard to like get comfy and try, especially when you haven't slept because you're doing all these flights and you're on the other side of the world. Like, you're like, okay, I got 2.5 hours to sleep before we land and then go straight to this other venue. And it's like, I can't sleep under that. You know, when I'm in the air like that, I close my eyes and I'm like, oh, I'm going to die.
Bro,
yeah,
like
talking about it right now, my hands are sweaty.
Dude, yeah, Dave and I were holding each other's hands, like not even on purpose. One time we were going from like PA to Jersey or something.
That's not even far. That's not even far.
It was 45 minutes of the worst 45 minutes of my life.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that is like, you know how algorithms usually work, and for some dumb reason, YouTube loves to send me like just bad plane shit, and like I've gotten like, you know, pilot's last words on the black box and all this other shit, and like all these like what happened to flight yada yada yada, and so of course I'm like,
yo, I'm about to be getting on a plane in like 8 hours. Like, come on, yo, and I'm going towards a hurricane. Come on.
Well, you know, just know this: they'll go around it. I mean, I've definitely flown a lot in my life, which is weird. But like the older I get, the more I'm like, I just don't even want to like get off the ground necessarily. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be on top of a building looking over. I don't want to, you know what I mean? It's so weird. And like this past weekend, I was telling you, Dave, I went to North Georgia and I was hiking and stuff. And like I went on a suspension bridge across a gorge, and I'm like, when I started walking out, and then of course it's starting to shake, and I'm like, dude, this is like airplane turbulence, and I'm not even having it. And so I'm in the middle of this bridge, and like when people are on the other ends, like getting on or getting off the bridge, it was like really shaking the bridge, and I was like, okay, I'm not having that at all. My legs were all like weak and trembling.
The town that I live in it's actually closed right now for renovation. It's been closed for a couple years, but the town I live in has the oldest suspension bridge in the United States. And it's absolutely terrifying. When you're driving over it, because it moves so much, if you're driving straight, you'll start to go, one way or the other, and you can feel it. Oh, it's
well, worse. This wasn't a suspension bridge like that. It was like one that you walk on. So it was a tiny little, you know, like a regular bridge, which is a little worse. Although speaking of bridges, I don't know. I don't like bridges either. We got like some big bridges here. I'm from Jacksonville, and you know, if you're familiar with Limp Bizkit, the Matthews Bridge. John Otto will take you there. But, you know,
Yeah.
the Matthews Bridge is kind of big, and it's, you know, I got stuck on. Yeah, I got stuck on the top recently, and because there was a car accident or something like that, so I was stuck on the top in my car, and of course the whole thing's shaking. And when people are coming in the other way, and I'm like, oh my God, just get the fuck off this thing. Come on, let's clear this road out and let's get down, because it's freaking me out. My hands are sweating now just thinking about flying and talking about all this shit.
Oh yeah, me too. Straight up, I'm feeling it. The flights really get me sometimes. Like,
so you are a sweater too. I sweat profusely on planes. I get like big stains, big sweat.
Got the air blowing on me. And, man, I get stressed. I am like super superstitious too. Like, I'm like, I can't go to the bathroom on this whole 10-hour flight because if I move, we'll die.
Yeah, you undo your seatbelt. Next thing you know, you're like, boop, boop. You're hitting the roof.
Yeah. Nope. Yep. Especially, you lose that altitude. Like, you ever been in the bathroom on a plane where you lose altitude? And
no, I've never had anything bad like that happen. I've never had anything like that happen, which is, knocking on wood.
Like I said, that short little flight, like the flight attendant was talking to us, and she just stopped talking, buckled herself in, and we were holding him, like our asses were like full on out of the seat, like for half that flight.
Yeah, you're like, what's going on? Why are you going back there? Why are you buckling up?
No, literally, bro. I was like, I saw her stop, and I was just like, oh no. Yeah. I was like, I'm not even gonna fucking get on the cool flight.
Yeah, that was like on our way to Europe, I think, or something, man. It was.
I did experience like flying in like an 8-seater little plane one time, and that was like by far. I had to fly I had to fly into somewhere like that, and I flew out of somewhere like that in like an 8-person plane. Whereas like, and like when we were we were getting on the plane, and I was like, dude, there's no fucking way. Like I can't get on this plane. Like my body is not wanting me to get on this plane. And then they're like, yeah, just you can take that seat next to the pilot. And I'm like, I'm not getting in the co-pilot seat. What are you, fucking insane? Like, I don't even want to be in the plane. I don't want to be in the front of it for sure. And I don't know if you've ever been on a plane that small, but you feel everything. It feels like you're driving on ice. The plane will go like side to side, and it is nuts.
Yeah, you're fucking holding on to the seats, man. Like,
Yeah, my anxiety is like slowly peaking.
Oh, sorry,
it's all good, man. It's all good. A lot of people have told me to take Valium, but I've never taken Valium before in my life, and so like, I don't know, like, or a Xanax or whatever it is. So like,
our old roommate used to give, like, whenever he'd drive us to the airport and then take our van back. And he had prescription. He'd be like, "Here you guys go. Like, I got you."
Yeah. Like, I mean, I've never tried that. But if that would like make me calm enough to where like I wouldn't even care about being on the plane, I'd probably fly a lot more. But I'd try to do everything I can to avoid it at this point.
Yeah, it'll knock you out. That's the best part. Especially like going to Asia. Usually, like, we have a layover, and then even without the layover, like the main flight from like U.S. to Asia is like 13 hours, and so I just watch movies, because I can't sleep, and you can fit in like 6-7 movies, and by the time you get through like the third movie, you're like, holy shit, I don't even want to be alive anymore. Like,
it would be interesting to try those like pods where you can like lay down. Like, obviously, it's more money and like first class expensive shit, but like, have like a little office where you're laying down. I wonder if I would feel different laying down, because things I hate on the plane are like when they get off the throttle and like the G's start letting up, on your body. Like, you're like, are we falling out of the sky? Like, what's going on? I get so freaked out. But anyway, we will stop talking about that because obviously David's about to go fly, and whatever. But let's kind of wrap this up. You guys are about to kick off you're going on vacation, David, but you're about to do your release tour, and then you have the Born of Osiris tour coming after that. So what is next? Like, obviously, like, what's the trajectory and the goals for the band coming up for this next year? Because obviously, everyone's had like a lot of time off in the industry. So what are the goals that you want to accomplish in the next year?
See, like, I think as a band, I think our goal is to just like tour as much as we can on this album cycle. From the lack of touring from the pandemic and just having to put in the legwork for the album itself. I believe like we're just going to do our best to write and get more material ready for the next cycle and just keep making steps forward as a band.
I feel like it sounds kind of cheesy because I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, but I feel like we definitely, especially just given all the shit that we've had to deal with over the years, and especially this year, I feel like we have a point to prove. Just in the sense of like, we are still this band. We are Sons of the Swarm. Like we especially with our headliner tour. This is the first time we've done one other headliner tour ever. This is the first time that we've ever really had like the means or the money to put into like production. So we've got light show, crazy merch, all the we're just trying to come out swinging. So our our peers and our friends and our fans, just to be like, that's been a hard year for a lot of bands, but we just want to be like, show people that we're able to still kill it. You know what I mean? And just kind of, so when people see us, hopefully people see us on this headliner tour, people see videos, they're like, holy shit, I want to go see that band. Like, they're doing the damn thing. So that's my goal right now, just for like the short future, is to just kind of get the hype going again and really prove that we can do what we do well and hold up with other bands that do what we do.
Cool.
A lot of touring though. We're trying to do as much touring as we can, and we had so much planned for the last year, year and a half, that didn't come through. So we're just trying to pick up where we left off. And this album, I feel like, is like you were saying before, kind of with like not straying from deathcore, but just broadening our horizons. I think like this tour we just announced with Born of Osiris, that's probably something that never would have happened before the songs we started releasing last September, just because it's still heavy, but it fits that style. And that's a whole new audience of people. Like, people might know us, but I've been listening to Born of Osiris since I was like 10, So like there's people who have been listening to that band and will come out to see them who might be older and don't care about newer bands, have the opportunity to see us. And that's something that's really special to me. So that's kind of just what we're shooting for, just to reach more people. And
well, that's cool. I mean, part of the podcast, that my goal is to to keep invigorating the music scene in so much way, and exposing smaller bands. Not only like obviously you have your Lamb of Gods and your big bands that are in the metal scene that we've done on the podcast, but my goal is to kind of like showcase the up and comers too. But to do so, you have to throw in those big mega hitters every now and then to get the views, right? So it is what it is.
I'm glad that you see us as the up and comers to kind of do this with us.
Well, I see, I at Lambgoat, I see the names come through. I see the names. I see the So if stuff like kind of sticks around, because not every band sticks around, unfortunately. You know what I mean? So you have to run a little bit of a gauntlet to kind of get to where you guys are at, and your gauntlet that you guys have run / are running is a little bit more up and down than most bands. But I feel you guys seem like you're cool peeps, and you seem like you have a goal in mind regardless of whatever has happened. And as long as you just keep moving forward, and like like the cover of your new album coming out, which I'm not even going to attempt again to say, but turn the page, next chapter, and then fly some more all over the world and be uncomfortable.
It's worth it, man. Just to meet people who are like, holy shit, it doesn't happen as much here in the States, because we've been doing it for a while, but when you go to like Bangkok or something and somebody's like, hi, like they know you, or it's absolutely unreal. It's worth it every time. As soon as you get off the plane, it's like, okay, it was worth it,
Even though I'm like, white as a ghost, I've lost 8 pounds of sweat on the flight. It's all good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you for spending this morning with me. Normally we don't do these early, but obviously David he's been up for 8 hours already. He's just he's done 2 hours of workout, and he's got his pre-workout running through him and all that stuff. So, best of luck to you guys, and have fun on your flight. We Clearwater's fun. Make sure you I don't know if you're a sports guy, but you're from Pittsburgh, so maybe you like baseball. I don't know. Chris Archer is now back on the Tampa Bay Rays. You can go see him this weekend if you'd like, but
hopefully if the weather holds up, or something to do.
Well, luckily it's in St. Pete, which is a little south of there, but it's all in the Tampa area, obviously. It's indoors, so you can go to the ball.
Oh shit! All right.
Yeah,
So you won't get hurt.
Might have saved me.
They'll be bringing everybody in there to save your asses.
You know, we don't necessarily we do hurricanes all the time down here, so it's not necessarily it's just a bad storm for us most part. And I don't,
that's what my family was telling me, because I have some family down there. I'm like, should I be concerned about this hurricane? And they're just like, no, every rain's a hurricane down here. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, we get thunderstorms daily. Florida has those daily afternoon thunderstorms because it's so hot and humid and stuff. And sometimes those things are way worse than a hurricane coming through. The thunder and the lightning is just way more intense. But I'm not trying to downplay hurricanes, because obviously if hurricanes do hit areas that aren't your area is not really prevalent to getting those. So New York floods and people get hurt and people do, unfortunately not make it and stuff. But for the most part, Florida just has hurricane parties and redneck shit. So, it is what it is.
Oh, word. That made me a little more confident for my trip, because I've been kind of sailing the sad boat, I'm just damn, I just fucking going on fucking this vacation and I'm gonna be stuck in a fucking Airbnb the entire time.
No, we're very used to it down here, as long as you can brave, I wouldn't say go out driving in the middle of it or anything like that, but it's not something you'll
chase the eye of the storm.
Yeah, you'll see when you get down here. We're a different breed, which I'm sure you've experienced Florida already. But
oh yeah.
I even thought to myself recently, I was like, man, if Florida had mountains, I don't, because we don't have any. We're flat for the most part, and we don't have seasons. It's just hot 90% of the year, and then we get some cold days in February or something like that. But
your cold's 70.
Yeah, I mean, we do. It's different. Even if it gets down to 40s, we're so the air is so wet. It's such a different kind of cold, you know what I mean? And it sucks. So everything's kind of wet. But if Florida had mountains, I probably would never want to leave. It's just a different vibe down here. Although Florida does get a lot of Florida man and all that wild shit that people say about us, which is definitely somewhat true. Obviously, it's a lot of sand and sun and alcohol down here, so it is what it is. But have a good time in Clearwater, David, not guys. And then, good luck on the upcoming tours and the album release that has already kind of happened as this is already released. So, all the thirds are signing off. All thirds of us. And
that's funny.
That's never happened before. So that is very interesting that has happened. I'll remember this for a long time. And so, when you guys get down here, obviously, hopefully we can kind of convene in person and
if you come to a show, hit one of us up or hit up our page. We'll fucking guest list you so we could chill, bro.
Yeah, for sure. And then depending on when it is, maybe we get an in-person podcast, because that's what we usually do.
That'd be really fucking cool, actually.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that some more, because I think we're gonna be coming your way on the next couple tours. So
yeah. We'll be in touch for sure. We got emails, social follows,
baby,
whatever.
Let's go.
All right. Well, here we are, Dave, Bob of the band Signs of Swarm, and this is us signing off, I guess. Thanks for coming on, guys.
All right. Thanks for having us.
See you, man.